Jeff hug there. Hello, my name is Warren Etheridge of the Warren Report. I'm very excited to be back on my home turf in New York. I almost feel badly speaking this loudly after the last speaker, but in all fairness, something I have to admit is that I did not speak until I was 6 years old. And at the time, or actually now, people would say, oh, he was a selective mute. I could grunt and point and stuff like that. And my father had a slightly less poetic term for it, which was retard. But either way, I wasn't speaking, and I got into first grade here at Allen Stevenson School in Manhattan, and I had a great, great first grade teacher, and she finally coaxed me to speak. And when she did, she said, why haven't you been talking all this time? And I said, it was my first full sentence, I said, because I never found anyone that interesting to speak to. And since then, maybe it makes sense in terms of what my career is, that now my job is talking to people, having conversations with people. I'm closing in now on 2,000 long-form interviews with celebrities and politicians, authors, artists, activists, you name it. And there are a lot of things that have come to me in this time, and I can say that this is how to grill a star or the art of the interview, but it's really the art of everyday conversation. Right? And it's something we all really need to work on. There's so many causes out there, but until you learn to actually speak to one another, so much of what we're talking about today is really sort of futile. You have to actually be able to hear the people around you. I was interviewing Michael Lewis, the author of Moneyball and Liar's Poker and The Big Short. He is the most charmingly narcissistic man I've ever met. Absolutely wonderful. And he'll admit that. He likes that tag, actually. He's taken that. I think he's put it on a business card at this point. Michael Lewis, I was talking to him, and he interrupted me, and he said, Warren, you know, the opposite of talking isn't listening, it's waiting. And while he was joking to some extent, I think there was a great deal of truth in that for most people. How many of us find ourselves just waiting for the other person to stop talking to say what we want to, right? It's actually been proven neuroeconomically that as I start to speak this sentence, you are filling out the rest of the words for me, right? That is problematic because if you're already filling out the sentence, you can't possibly be listening to the rest of it, okay? When the video camera craze sort of took off initially, I was always amazed when I'd travel around and I'd see people actually looking at things, not looking at things, but looking at them through cameras that just walk around in foreign cities like this. And I thought, why are you doing that? What about actually having the experience while you're there? And the same thing is true of conversation. So I'm going to ask you to do something which I know is bold and maybe it's obnoxious, but really, if you're going to be here at this conference right now, I know it's tempting to tweet, but if you would close your computers for the next 5 minutes, just shut them down for 5 minutes, that's all I really ask of you, right? Because the very first step in how to grill a star or how to interview a celebrity or how to actually have a conversation with somebody is to prepare yourself to listen. Right? If you're not actually attentive, if you're not actually paying attention, if you're working on something, how deep do you think your level of listening is? How much do you think you're actually retaining? How much do you think you're actually absorbing? How much respect do you think you're actually giving the person you're in conversation with? You must prepare to listen. Now, when I talk to stars, the next thing, or talk to politicians, the next part is prepare to be unprepared. Okay? Do not have a list of questions. Do not have an agenda. Don't figure out what it is you want to pitch to somebody, what it is you want to sell to somebody. Prepare to be unprepared. I do this by doing a great, great deal of research. All right? So on the spectrum, there's Larry King over here, who did absolutely nothing and prided himself on knowing nothing, and it worked for him for 40 years, so I can't really complain too much about that. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have James Lipton with his mountain of blue index cards, right? And the amazing thing about the two ends of the spectrum here is that they both asked essentially the same questions. If Tom Hanks was to come on the show of either one of those, there'd be a question about Larry Crown, the new movie with Julia Roberts, and Larry King would say something like, wow, working with Julia Roberts, what was it like to kiss her? Was that fantastic? That would be the Larry King question. And then on the James Lipton side, he'd pull over a card and he said, in 2011, you starred in a film with Julia Roberts, Larry Crown, and you kissed her. How did that feel? I mean, and All that is a very shallow level of preparation to have a conversation because we're not getting to questions that actually are meaningful, right? To really prepare, you have to familiarize yourself with somebody, do the research. And when I do my research, I go deep, I take notes, and what I'm taking notes on are not the facts that people already know. I'm taking notes about things that interest me and spark my intrigue with this individual. You know, there's the idea with lawyers that you should never ask a question that you don't have the answer to. For me, it's the other way around. I only want to ask questions that I don't have answers to. I want to learn something new from the individual, okay? Allow for the discovery. You're not a lawyer. As an interviewer, you are not a recording device. You are part of this conversation, okay? Next thing, when you go in there, first step with any sort of conversation, get the attention of somebody. The very first question is all important. I pride myself in my first questions, and it's the only one I prepare for an interview. The rest come off on the fly. That's extemporaneous. But the very first question is something where I want to shock the person into actually paying attention, right? Because so few of us actually pay attention in conversation with others. This is so effective that I had Steven Johnson. Everybody familiar with Steven Johnson? He has 1 million Twitter followers. I think you should know him in this room. Steven Johnson, I had him out for an event, and he wrote about the first question I asked him 3 weeks later in the New York Times. And that question was, are you a communist? I have to get to the hard-hitting stuff. Get their attention. Second step here is win their trust. And this is true with people you know, and it's true with interviews, it's true with anybody. Win their trust. Show them that you actually are there to talk to them, not to speak your mind, but to hear from them. I consider conversation the greatest gift another person can give you. When people actually open up and share something with you, that is a glorious gift, and we should respect it as such. And you win their trust by actually showing them that you are attentive, that you do care, and you're interested in their new insights. I recently interviewed Jodie Foster and went down this road, and I was trying to talk to her about loyalty, and at one point she says, I know where you're going. And I said, no, you don't know where I'm going. And we did not talk about Mel Gibson. We did not talk about it. We talked about actual loyalty and what that means. What does it mean to love and respect another person? And in asking her that question, I could see that I had won her trust, and she came out with this amazing story about how she raises her kids and talks to her nephew, things that I've never heard in any other conversation, because I'd won her trust. The last step is earning their respect, earning the respect of somebody that you're in conversation with. And the way you do that is by recognizing that not only are they important and worthy of respect, but proving that you are as well. And you do that by giving something back in the conversation. And not giving something back to show off, but giving something back to help them with something. If you want to have a great conversation, you want to have a great interview, offer something back to the person you're speaking with. Turn around what they're saying and let them see it in a new light. Years ago, when I was a kid, I got great advice from a woman, which was that people touch us the way they want to be touched. And it is true in conversation as well. People want to be spoken to. People want to be listened to. People want to be heard. People want to tell their stories. In all those 2,000 interviews, I have never met somebody who didn't want to tell their story. They may be shy, they may be a little withdrawn, but everybody wants to tell their story. And they will let you know. They will let you know how they want to be touched. They will let you know how they want to be spoken to. You just have to listen. And if you want to know how to be a better lover, a better interviewer, anything, just take a moment and listen. That's all it's about. It's a connection between two people. So at the end of this talk, you can reopen your computers, you can tweet, but if you're here in this room hearing from so many great speakers, even those who whisper, listen to them. Thank you.